Lewis Hamilton's next win is on the verge of history and taking us back to an older time. Find out how and why next.
Hop in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds.
Hello, family and friends. Welcome to an all-new episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I am your lovely host, David Lawrence. Thank you guys so much for putting me in your ears today. Before we get started, that one lovely little item of housekeeping. If you're not subscribed to our show when you're listening to this, why aren't you? Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We're on YouTube. We're on YouTube Music. Make sure you subscribe so that way you can get notifications when we drop new content. Also, like and share the show. Let's get these algorithms going. Let's get them feeling us so we can actually gain some traction and spread the word about motorsport. Why don't we? If you're listening to this on the day it drops, we have just finished practice day for the Japanese Grand Prix Round 3 of the 2025 Formula One season. And after the events of the Chinese Grand Prix 2 weeks prior, I'm on the verge of an epiphany. As you all know, Lewis Hamilton won the Saturday sprint race, his first win in Ferrari colors after he won the sprint pole dramatically on the Friday of the Chinese GP weekend. It got me to thinking, how long will it be before Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso breaks through and adds themselves to an elusive list of Formula One drivers? Follow me for a moment, if you will. Lewis turned 40 on January 7th, and Fernando is already at the beautiful age of 43. Clearly, Fernando and Lewis are the elder statesmen on the Formula One grid. In modern day Formula One, we are so used to drivers coming into the sport in their 20s and maybe having enough staying power to race in their 30s. But with Lewis and Fernando in their 40s, this isn't a new thing. Go back to the 50s and 60s and it was quite the opposite. Give you this comparison to start. Last year's average age of the Formula One grid was 29 years old. In comparison, 75 years ago, at the 1950 British Grand Prix where it all began, the average age of the field was 35. The average age of the F1 grid actually stayed above 30 until the 1980s. And to further prove a point, the highest average age of a grid in Formula One history was the 1951 season, where the field average age came out to 37. Safe to say, what we would call today season winners were a common occurrence in the early years of Formula One. Bringing it back to modern day. Should Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso win a Grand Prix, the one who does it next will become only the 10th driver in Formula One history to achieve a Grand Prix win after turning the age of 40. Surprisingly, you don't have to go too far to find the last 40-year-old winner in Formula One. The last driver to do it? El Leone, Nigel Mansell, driving for Williams in the 1994 Australian Grand Prix on the streets of Adelaide. His win that day helped to solidify Williams as the 1994 Constructors' Champions. Nigel won that 1994 Australian Grand Prix at the age of 41 years, 3 months, and 5 days. To add to the wow factor of this win, this was after Nigel actually left Formula One for a full year, went to IndyCar, and became the IndyCar champion at the age of 40, while he was still Formula One world champion before Alain Prost officially claimed his 4th driver's title. Came back to Formula One after the death of Ayrton Senna, running a partial season that did not clash with his current IndyCar commitments, leading to his historic win. Now, with that being said, David, what about the other drivers who found Formula One success after turning 40? Well, let's go into the time machine and let's talk about those other 8 men that have gone on to become the fountain of youth, Formula One's winners over the age of 40. I'm going to split them into 3 different categories. One-time winners, drivers who scored their last win after turning 40, and 40-year-old world champions, as in drivers who won their world championships after turning 40 years old. And yes, there are a few of those. Let's start with those one-time winners. Let's give thanks to the Indianapolis 500 for being counted as a round of the World Championship in the 1950s for our first entrant. 1957 Indianapolis 500 champion Sam Hanks took the checkered flag that day at the Brickyard at the age of 42. Rewind 5 years to 1952, Piero Taruffi won the Swiss Grand Prix for Ferrari at the age of 45. And the last example is probably the wildest but the most historic. In the 1951 French Grand Prix, Luigi Fagioli shared his winning Alfa Romeo. Yes, that was a thing once upon a time in Formula One. He shared the winning car with Juan Manuel Fangio. Spoiler, his name will also come back later in this episode. And the two split the victory, with Luigi becoming the oldest winner in Formula One history at 53 years, 22 days. Safe to say, Luigi, your record will never be broken. Our next category is drivers who scored their last win after turning 40. We've already mentioned the feat of Nigel Mansell. There's 2 other drivers that also fit in this category. Maurice Trintignant won his second and last Grand Prix at the 1958 Monaco Grand Prix. The Frenchman driving for Cooper that day was 40 years, 6 months, and 18 days. Monaco would also serve as a site for another famous driver's last win after turning 40. 2-time world champion Graham Hill scored his 14th and final Formula One win in the 1969 Monaco Grand Prix for Lotus. His age, 40 years, 3 months, and 3 days. Last but not least, let's talk about the men who went on to win, but also be crowned world champions after their 40th birthday. The first is Australia's Sir Jack Brabham. Sir Jack scored 14 wins over his Grand Prix career, but probably his most impressive feat was 1966, where he scored all 4 of his wins that season after his 40th birthday, and yes, his points were enough to crown him 1966 Formula One World Champion, his 3rd world driving crown. 4 years later, Jack would score his 14th and final win in the 1970 season-opening South African Grand Prix in his own personally built car. His age, 43 years old. Before Mansell, he would be the last 40-year-old winner in Formula One. The next winner and champion over 40 we'll highlight is probably the most influential name in early Formula One. He was the king of the 1950s. I'm referring to the one they knew simply as El Maestro, Argentina's Juan Manuel Fangio. Fangio scored 24 wins, and up to 1973 it was a Formula One record. Of his 24 wins, 20 of them came after his 40th birthday, including all 5 of his world championships. His last win, the 1957 German Grand Prix for Maserati, came at the age of 46. To this day, he still holds the mark as the 3rd oldest winner in Formula One history, and his 1957 World Championship, his 5th and 4th in a row, I should note, was also obtained at the age of 46. Maybe the unassailable, unattainable record as the oldest Formula One world champion ever. Don't think that one will ever be topped, especially as modern day Formula One continues to get younger. And last but not least, we have to talk about the original world champion, Giuseppe Nino Farina. Farina is perfectly built for a topic like this. He was already 43 at the 1950 British Grand Prix. Farina would go on to make history, becoming the first ever FIA Formula One world champion. At the age of 43, Farina still stands as the second oldest world champion in Formula One history. His fifth and final win, the 1953 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring for Ferrari, came at the age of 46 years, 9 months, and 3 days. Farina has the dual distinction of not only being just the second oldest world champion behind Fangio, but also the second oldest race winner in Formula One history behind the aforementioned Luigi Fagioli 2 years prior to his 1953 German Grand Prix win. The fact that there's already nearly 5 years in between the two gaps just gives you an idea of the statesmanship of Formula One at the time. And safe to say, I don't think either of their records are going to be touched anytime soon. With that being said, with that history lesson, let's bring it back to present day again. While Alonso can spurn a surprise, Hamilton now is in a truly competitive ride and really able to shake the trend this season and next. As it stands already, Hamilton's Belgian Grand Prix victory last August now has him as the 12th oldest winner in Formula One history. And he looks very likely to do something that a lot of us thought were impossible. Even when Nigel Mansell won that 1994 Australian Grand Prix, keep this in mind. He's the only driver over the age of 40 to win a Formula One Grand Prix in the last 50 years. And if you listen to my history lesson, and if you're doing the math, that means 8 of the 9 winners over 40 won either in 1970 or earlier. But then again, that was just how Formula One was at the time. And with modern day Formula One focused so much on the next big talent, the next big thing, focusing on younger drivers hoping to get their next big break, and with the thought process being the younger, the faster, could Alonso or could Hamilton remind us that age is nothing but a number? And if you got the speed, you got the speed. Is 2025 the year Fernando Alonso or Lewis Hamilton joins elite company and takes us all back to the future? Let's just keep watching and find out. Before we leave you today, let's give you a preview of the racing weekend. As we have mentioned, this weekend is the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. This will be the first of 3 straight weeks of Formula One racing. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia will follow. Down under, the GT World Challenge Australia Championship will be kicking off their season at Phillip Island. Moving over to Europe, the British GT Championship kicks off their season at Donington Park. The European Le Mans Series and their support bill will start their 2025 season in Barcelona. Here in the States, let's start with 2 wheels. Supercross is at Foxborough, Massachusetts at Gillette Stadium, while down in Birmingham, Moto America and their different classes take on Barber Motorsports Park. And last but most certainly not least, it's Throwback Weekend at the Track 2 Tough to Tame. The Lady in Black is hosting the Cup and Xfinity Series this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing all those old school throwback paint schemes taking to the track. Hopefully you enjoy it as much as I do. Alright friends, we've reached the end of another episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Before you go, just a few reminders. Make sure you follow us on our social media sites. That's X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. We all have the same handle, NSJQ Podcast. Also, don't forget, subscribe to our channel. We're on YouTube and YouTube Music. And when you subscribe, like and share our content so the algorithms can pick it up. So that way more people can find out about us. We love to spread the word about motorsports. That's all we're trying to do. Just have a little fun. And last but most certainly not least, if you want to follow little me on my social media channels, I will put the links to those in the description box below this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Until then, I'm David Lawrence, and always remember, you're not living life to the fullest until you're going flat out. So long, everyone.